United came from behind to salvage a point and secure their place in the Champions League next season for just the second time in their history. A very chaotic game. Goals coming in the 38th minute, 42nd minute, 45th minute and 68th minute, all from different goal scorers. Rach, what did you make of this one?
It was such an exciting game. It absolutely lived up to the Manchester derby kind of history, which is great to see. I feel like now the games between the two Manchester teams, you don't know which way it's going to go. Always action-packed. I was actually really impressed with City. It was great to see Hemp and Greenwood back, and you kind of were seeing glimpses of the old City where they were feeling themselves a little bit more confident. But
Hempo was flying.
Yeah, but equally super impressed with Manchester United and how I thought they started the game really well, and to be able to come back into it being 2-0 down and get that much needed draw was very, very impressive. And I think you have to give credit to United, given everything they've had to deal with off the pitch and all the noise off the pitch, to be able to be performing the way they are, to guarantee Champions League next season. Still don't know if they'll get second or third. FA Cup final, it's been a good season for them, I think. And I think as well, turning up against these teams. I know they narrowly lost to Chelsea and this was a draw, but getting that experience of getting back into it, being 2-0 down, coming back into it, players hitting form, arguably could have won it. I think that goal that was disallowed early on was pretty soft, in my opinion. That was so soft. And I was incredibly impressed that it was actually caught by the referee, to be honest. So yeah, that was
Emily
a big call.
Heaslip, wasn't it? Yeah.
Of course it was, yeah. And that was a big call, so that was a little bit soft for me.
Well, I do want to give a little bit of love to Alexandri. It's her first WSL goal.
That was unreal.
What a goal it was.
Little footwork beforehand.
It was absolutely
like
stunning.
A number 9 or a number 10, just dancing into the box.
Cheeky little butterfly feet, and then the curl on it took it right past Fallon Tullis-Joy. She had absolutely no chance. She'd also had an absolutely incredible game.
Yeah.
And then also Kanak as well from the corner, leaping header. I'd literally run from the back post to the front post, completely unmarked.
She nearly put that ball through the net, Chloe.
100%. It nearly took the keeper back. It was both goals absolutely brilliant. Absolute credit to them.
Also for Kanak, who hadn't started, probably wasn't meant to come on that early, maybe might have gotten a couple of minutes, but the fact that Wahhabi went off, Greenwood had to go into the left back position and Kanak had to come on. So for Man City to be able to rely on, look, I know Kanak is relatively new, but experienced players to step up in those moments was brilliant.
She didn't look new.
To have two defenders putting you 2-0 up against Manchester United in what was the most important game of your season now at this rate, to try and get back into Champions League spots, was very impressive.
The step up was strong, but 2-0 up, absolutely incredible. You're thinking, okay, big battle for Man United to climb. Climb they did. Grace Clinton drew one back for United just before half-time.
It's 90 seconds after the second goal or something.
It was silly, absolutely silly, but what a goal it was for Grace Clinton. And again, another beautiful cross in. Clinton, forceful header, nearly took Kiara Keaton back into the stands. And then Mallard got the equaliser 5 minutes after she was introduced in the second half. Kiara Keaton, love it to pieces. It's a difficult ball.
She was caught in two minds, wasn't she?
Dropped in the mid-set, but then she hesitated and that made it a little bit more difficult. Mallard again with the butterfly feet, kind of looked like she was going to play it left.
Butterfly feet,
it's
I
like
love this.
Like wings.
Oh.
A little wings. You look like she's going to hit it with her left foot and she's slotted it past on her right.
Butterfly feet.
I think it's always easy to kind of, in those moments you've got to make a decision within about 0.02 seconds. But at the same time, I think she probably could have held back, relied on her defenders to maybe come across and do something a bit better to at least put Mallard off. But you make a call, and I don't think it wasn't bad goalkeeping. It was just maybe...
It's amazing, though, a second hesitation, what a difference it makes.
100%. So, yeah, but... fellow sub Aoife Mannion sent off shortly after the second goal. What with a second booking? It was a silly challenge.
I saw some people saying it wasn't a yellow, saying it was unfair. It was a yellow.
It was clear.
But she had also accumulated.
Yeah.
So she'd made 2 or 3 fouls in the game. So she was on very thin ice, and I feel like any challenge then was going to be the second yellow because she'd gotten away with a few. So look, she can play a little bit on the edge, which is fine. It was a feisty game. They were targeting Alex Greenwood at times, and she was kind of, making sure City felt her presence. A wonderful assist for the goal. I think it was Aoife Mannion who got that assist. But yeah, I guess added to the spiciness of the game. And for United again then to stay in it. I think they prevented Manchester City having a shot for the kind of final 10-15 minutes after that yellow card, which is pretty impressive.
That was going to be my next question, because it kind of felt like the Aoife Mannion being sent off actually reinvigorated Man United. I felt like they got more compact at the back. They kind of crowded out those areas and did so well with just 10 players. Like there was emergency defending. It felt like actually United stepped up after going down to 10 people.
And factor in that they lost Jade Riviere. Gabby George went off as well. So to have that kind of change in defence for them and then to go a player down made that kind of solidity all the more impressive.
Well, how do we think City did in terms of allowing United to get back into the game? What do we think City were kind of lacking? We kind of mentioned before, Alex Greenwood and Lauren Hemp started their first game since undergoing knee surgeries. It was amazing to see them back. Absolutely loved it. I thought Lauren Hemp, you miss how effective she is on the wings. I mean, she created the first chance, didn't she, for the Alexandri goal? And also reassuring, I think, a little bit from an England perspective too. Obviously, we're heading into the Euros. They play Portugal at the end of this month and Spain the beginning of June. But yeah, where do we think it fell apart for City?
Difficult, I know, letting them back into it, and that is frustrating. And I think we've seen games where they've gotten goals and teams have come back into it a little bit. You know, I guess it's that depth issue a little bit as well. I think some subs made early on, like that Ohabi sub had to happen that maybe they hadn't planned to happen. You know, Lauren Hemp not being able to play the full game, but then you are bringing in Jill Roord, which is, you know, arguably not a bad player to be bringing on, able to bring on Fagino as well. They had options, you know, Kirsten Kasperai with an unbelievable shot early on that just went over. They had chances, but I just feel like this isn't the game where they lost Champions League football. It was almost a lot of pressure was on this game. They had to win this game, and that's a very difficult position to be in at this stage of the competition. So they kind of lost that Champions League position kind of in other fixtures, I would argue. But I also think credit to Man United in making it difficult for them to create clear-cut opportunities as well in the latter stages of the game. Definitely.
Well, I definitely felt sorry for City. You could see how disappointed they were. They were pretty upset afterwards. And Nick Cushion in the post-match interview was kind of saying, you know, how disappointing it was to sort of come in at the stage that he did just sort of early this year and sort of say, you know, expectations were really big. It was the week before the Subway League Cup final that he'd come in. Obviously, they lost that game, and then to lose the Champions League spot, it's sort of, a tough one to take as an interim manager. And it 100% not saying it's on his head. It's absolutely not. But it's going to be a tough one to take, surely.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the stats, they'll be disappointed. You know, they created 15 shots, 5 of which were on target. United had 2 on target, and they were both goals. So no recorded saves for Chiara Keating. However, Fallon Tullis-Joyce made 4 saves. She had a great game. That's the other difficult thing, is you're up against, you know, the best keeper in the league. So add that to your difficulty.
Definitely. That Carolyn effort,
Carolyn
God, close range.
Carolyn was unbelievable.
She was absolutely unreal.
She was so good, so impactful. So look, it was the one last thing they had to fight for, which would be really disappointing for them. But with the squad they have, and hopefully a little bit more, you know, depth in the summer, they could be really, like, imagine next season having Carolyn and Hemp and Miedema and Bunny Shaw and,
all back to
Fagino and Fowler might be out for a little while, but, you know, in terms of attacking quality, maybe shore up defensive a little bit, and, you know, because there is the rumour that Alexandri is going to Barcelona, so
yes,
they will need to look into replacing her.
Please do some business this transfer window, City. Please, please, please. United failed to progress from the Champions League qualifying rounds in 2023. Do we feel like they can at least go one step further next season? I think the pressure is on for them. I think everyone can kind of understand it's your first outing in the Champions League. To get knocked out in those early stages, not ideal, but it's your first run in.
And not handled all that well.
Not handled that well. But reaching the group stages of the Champions League means they would receive just over 430,000 as a starting fee and bonus payments on top, depending on results. You can kind of see Jim Ratcliffe going, hello.
I don't know. That would involve him actually looking and noticing his women's team.
Yeah.
So, not
Probably
sure.
not. But go on. Do we think they're going to do one better next year?
I hope so. I think they need to do some business in the summer. I think playing Champions League football is a great draw to get players in. You know, I think this second place is important because, you know, if you finish second in the WSL, they have one game to play in the qualifiers as opposed to having to go through 2 phases, which they won't want to do. So that second place is all important. hopefully someone will tell Arsenal that at some point, that it is important whether they finish second or third. Although they could be looking at it saying, we've had such a long journey. We've come right from the beginning of the Champions League all the way to the final. We'll be grand. So that could make for a very interesting game next week. I think United have a very good 12 or 13 players. Mm-hmm. I think they just need to strengthen their depth a little bit to allow them to go further in competitions. Have that little bit of maybe Champions League experience, etc., which will help them. So yeah, it could be really interesting to try and get another 3 teams as far as possible in the Champions League. English teams would be nice to see. And
also, like you said, you do need that squad depth. If you're going to go to the later stage of the competition and be a part of, obviously, the FA Cup until the final stages, that's where you're going to have to go. Does depend on investment. Jim Ratcliffe, not known for sticking his hands in his pockets.
Or knowing his women's team. But you think central defence, they've had a very good defence this season. May Letizier, Millie Turner. God forbid one of them gets injured. Mm. You need someone coming up at that level to be able to fill that gap. So it's that kind of, I think that's what Chelsea have shown, is that when a player gets injured, they've got someone of equal quality to step in. And actually, I think it's something we're starting to see with teams lower down, is that the quality across their benches has improved massively.
Definitely. Well, weirdly enough, it feels like Mark Skinner's been listening to the pod, because he himself said, in order to go into the depths of the Champions League and from our perspective actually qualify for the group stages, we have to add the quality of depth. So it will be interesting to see what kind of investment takes place this summer. Okay, so talking about the new Champions League format that's going to be taking place from next season onwards. Rachel, I'm going to throw to your expertise. I know you and Soph have these Rain Man-like abilities to kind of dissect the most awful new format situations, like the Women's Nations League. You did so well with that.
But I actually think we were wrong when it came to the Nations League, but let's not go there.
It's hard to know if you're wrong, because it's so non-understandable.
So a bit like last time, second or third place will go in earlier and have an extra round of qualifying. So should that be Arsenal? Currently Arsenal are in second, so Arsenal wouldn't come in until the third round, and Manchester United would come in at the second round. Should they then progress to the 18 league group, teams are going to be seeded. So you've basically got teams 1 to 7, which is based on your coefficients. So Spain being number 1, and those teams from 1 to 7 get 3 teams into the Champions League, and then 7 to 15 get 2 teams. It's very complicated. But basically the 18 teams that end up in the league will be seeded and be put into 3 pots. Now, let's say Chelsea, I'm just going to take an example to make it easier. They won't play 3 teams home and away. They will face 6 teams that they'll play once. They will have 3 home games and 3 away games in the league setup.
Yep.
They will face 2 teams from each pot, right? So the teams, we put in the 3 pots based on their rankings, their seedings, and you will face 2 teams from pot 1, 2 teams from pot 2, 2 teams from pot 3. Gotcha. So a variety of quality, if you like.
Okay.
The top 4 that finish top 4 in the league will go to the quarterfinals.
Gotcha.
Teams 5 to 12 will play knockout to get the next 4 to go into the quarterfinals.
Yep.
And then the teams below will get knocked out. They don't qualify. So if you finish between 5th and 12th, you still have a chance of qualifying for the quarterfinals.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then quarterfinals, semi-finals, final.
Bloody hell, they don't make it easy, do they?
Like to keep you on your toes. And I'm sure I'll have someone tweet me and tell me what bit I got wrong.
The one benefit I would say from that situation is that you are likely to get the lower seeded teams at least progress a little bit further into the competition, as I understand it.
Potentially, yeah. So rather than it, being, if you don't come second or first in your group, you're not getting through. You can come 5th to 12th, and then you face other teams between 5th and 12th to get through. Does that make sense? So,
sure.
Yes, a little bit more of a chance to get through. And also playing a wider variety of teams, which I think is pretty cool, playing 6 teams instead. I think it gives teams more chances to play bigger teams. Mm-hmm. Champions League has been a great stage of kind of auditions for some players to be seen by bigger teams and who play in bigger leagues, and maybe give them opportunities. So it makes it a little bit more interesting, I'd say.